All right, y'all. This is episode 191 of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast. I got with me my boy Frankie, per usual. I don't even know why I introduced him anymore. He's a staple. So it's called the episode is titled today Limit Social Media. Okay. So we're gonna be talking about the Surgeon General here, and I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. For y'all that can't see it, I'm gonna read it. So Surgeon General Vinnick Murthy believes that children join social media too early and thinks they should only be allowed to access the platforms once they're between 16 and 18 years old. 13 is too young, quote end quote. So Frankie, how do you feel about that?
Um, I will say I have to agree with that, but I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
to implement it. And then two, it's kind of like the things with cigarettes, now it's like, do we do a stopgap and be like, okay, from the people who already have it from now to now, you're able to join it like from 13, but then like in next year, it has to be 16 unless you're grandfathered in. Um, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much how I am. Yes, I agree. Don't know how they're gonna implement it. And oh yeah, and then three, there's no verification. So
Yeah,
you're
and
four.
and then what? Yeah. And then my thing is, so I agree with all your points there, and then I
Mhm.
would also say this, right? Okay, let's say you have these kids that have these YouTube channels. Like there's that kid that does the toy reviews.
Mhm.
That kid makes millions, and he
Mhm.
does it with his parents. Like, is that
Well,
okay or is that not okay? Like,
well, I
are we
think
talking about kids that just the parents aren't involved,
yeah.
or yeah, just
Yeah,
yeah?
no, I definitely think that that's what it is. Coming and this is coming from a person who pretty much has a kid in their life, and I see kind of just
Yeah.
how not just social media, how like the phone like consumes them, and it's really really scary how they get into these echo chambers. But I think it does show how the world has changed a lot too, and social media it's now a place where people gather around too, and it's an evolution of pretty much of the message form, the message form boards, or even just a schoolyard now, or not just like a park. So it's kind of hard if you're saying, hey, I'm going to limit we're going to limit this, and without giving them an alternative. That's kind of scary too.
Yeah, I'm yeah, I'm with that. That makes sense. But then at the same time, like I want to add to that. I guess I'll add to that to say, like, not seeing people like, I know growing up, right? Like
Mhm.
social circle, like actual real social circle, like people talking in a group, that has like dwindled down so hard. Like you see people online talking in a group, but talking outside in person in groups, like that
Mhm.
interpersonal connection, like of younger people, like it feels like almost it doesn't feel as real, like their connections to each other. It feels a bit more fragile, like they're not building real lasting bonds with each other,
Mhm.
like they're
Well,
not able to really connect.
I think there's two reasons for that. The main reason I'm gonna say too is just the travel of information, because if you look at a lot of statistics, a lot of crimes and even abductions and all that other fun stuff, it's not it's not up since when we were kids. And at
Yeah.
times you can say, hey, things are even safer if you put it to the percentages and everything. But since
Hmm.
information now is a lot more accessible, and certain news stories trend nationwide right away, or even worldwide right away,
Hmm.
people keep their kids in because they're afraid, because they're like, I don't want this to happen to my kid as well too. And I think that's
Yeah.
effectively helping take out the social spaces. Plus the inflation with everything too. There's a lot less hangouts for kids, because
Hmm.
by basic design, any place that's made to house kids doesn't make money, or as much money as other things have too. And you can tell, like, malls are going away because a lot of stuff in the mall, it's just for, you have the food court and then you have window shopping. So the stores that would attract people to go hang out at the mall, they're going away. And so
Hmm.
it's stuff like that, because everything goes down to capitalism. And it's like, I can't tell someone, keep this place open to save money. Um like I can't do, or like hey, don't be profitable, but keep this open for the kids. Like I can't in good conscience say that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so I don't blame them for closing down shop or going somewhere else. But I think that has something to do with it as well too, because you know being online is relatively free compared to the alternative, and I think parents like that too because they're able to keep their kid in a controlled environment. They don't have to spend money, and then they still get their social interaction.
Yeah, but don't you feel like that's also like making kids a bit like just not like, for instance, like when you communicate with somebody like 20, I'd say about 23 and younger, that conversation goes like way different. Like even if you guys are of similar interests,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Like for
No,
instance, I'll bring up the
I
example.
definitely agree with
I'll
that. I
wait,
mean,
wait. Yes. So prime example is I'm talking to this guy in this Discord server. I talked about it before. I'm gonna talk about it again. The guy hits me up, right? And he's like,
mhm,
"Hey man, you know what I'm saying? Can you blur can you cover that video, that link you posted?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Right? He's like, "Well, I think the warning label could be triggering." And I'm just like, "What?" I'm like, "It's a warning label, so thus people don't watch it. Like, why do I have to then blur the warning? Wouldn't that just like blurring the stop sign doesn't make the stop sign less of a stop sign. I mean, it does make the stop sign less of a stop sign because then you can't see the actual sign to tell you, hey, you might not want to go in here. This might not be your cup of tea. But if
mhm,
I put a clear warning label on there, that means you went in there of your own volition
mhm.
after that." And I'm like, and then I told him, I was like, and then I put a 3-minute buffer at the beginning of the video. It's not like I opened up the video with violence. Like I literally like I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like there's a level of I think sensitivity that they have that's good in a sense, but also bad in a sense because they're not actually engaging with reality and realizing like things are even worse.
I don't think it's so much that, and
Hmm.
I'll put it a video game analogy.
Okay, go ahead.
When we were growing up, more
Hmm.
so, if we wanted to play a multiplayer game, what do we have to do?
I had to go to your house and sit on the couch.
Yeah, or go to arcade, so you had to interact with
Yep.
others, right?
Hmm.
Now, what do you have to do?
Cut the system on.
Well, no, and the thing is too, because there's a lack of multiplayer co-op multiplayer games. Like
Oh,
unless you have a
cooperative.
Nintendo system.
Mm.
So what's happening now is that people
Mm.
they're losing the ability to compromise.
Mhm.
They're losing the ability to have like a discussion and be saying it's okay to disagree. And because and everybody says compromise like it like they say compromise like it's a bad thing. And the thing is, no, it's like,
Mhm.
hey, like because my cousin and I we used to do it all the time growing up. He liked NBA Live, right?
Mhm.
I like Madden. So we go to my
Yeah.
grandma's house and we're playing because there's only one console, one TV. He wanted to play his game, I wanted to play my game. So it's like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna play NBA Live with you for a little bit for like 2 hours. And then after that, hey, guess what? Now we're gonna switch the game and we're gonna play Madden for 2 hours. So I
Yeah.
wasn't the biggest NBA Live fan, but I played and had fun because that's where we compromise, and and then it helps you interact with others. And hey, not
Yeah.
to learn not everything's about you. And hey, and guess what? I was actually pretty good at NBA Live too. And we do this together. So it teaches you compromise social skills. And hey, you might not always get to do exactly what you want to do at that moment, but you can still have fun, and then in the line you get to play then people they do the same thing because now what happens, these kids, it's they go to house, someone plays a game, the person doesn't want to play it, they just grab this and do their own thing, you
Mhm.
know, or they'll and that's how it and that's really how it is. And I think just the
Mm.
foundation of just compromising and interacting with people and
Yeah.
just doing things that, hey, it might not be exactly what you want to do, but you can still participate. And I mean that goes on
Mm.
like we say it at work, people get voluntold to do stuff and then they half-ass it. And it's like, no, just because you're doing something that you don't want to do doesn't mean you half-ass it, because a
Yeah.
lot of people, they're taught now, if it's not exactly what you want to do, you don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
and it's not about the hey, what's the harm in doing this? Like, is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is it going to cause you physical pain? Is it going to cause you physical harm?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is all that no, it's like, oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? You make someone else happy, and you might have fun, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not good enough for things anymore. And I think that's what's going out, and that's what these online social debates do. And then and that there's no repercussions now, because now I could be here, talk about anything what I want, um you know down talk down to somebody, call them stupid, ridicule them with no
Mm-hmm.
consequences. And I think that's what's showing, because we saw that with the Xbox Live, because you have these kids, calling everybody the freaking N-word and something like that too. And it's like, yeah, because like I can't, like, there's no repercussions. And then their parents not there, because that's the thing, because when I hear kids doing that like that too, especially like when I'm there, I'm like, hey, stop that. Like, that's not how you talk to people.
You know what's crazy? I just got through roasting somebody on Call of Duty Warzone last night. Like, dude, it was so bad. I clipped it. First of all, dude thermited himself. Okay, that's one.
Hmm.
All right, that's one guy on my team. Secondly, the other guy on my team doesn't shoot at the helicopter that's about to crash into us, and then it crashes into us.
Hmm.
Guess what happens after it crashes into us? You know what I'm saying? Like, we nearly die. We nearly die. He committed suicide, and we got the bounty points for it. But at the same time, I'm just like, yo, why didn't you shoot? Like, you had clear. I turned the helicopter to the side. You had clear visibility. You had a
Hmm.
clear line of sight, and you just couldn't do it. And I think you know what I'm saying. Granted,
Yeah.
I had to compromise with them whenever they wanted to get out and go explore or whatever, and I'm just the guy flying the helicopter. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I think Warzone is one of the few, like, those Call of Duty where they force you to play on a team together, is
Yeah.
one of those few times where you have to actually strategize and go, okay,
Hmm.
we're going to go to this point. We're going to do this thing together, because you can't do multiple bounties at the same time. So I
Yeah.
said, we'll do the safecracker first so we can get money. Then we'll do your bounty. He said, okay. I said, cool. So then once he did he got the bounty. I said, dude, I'll go get the helicopter. You
Hmm.
guys can stay here. You know what I'm saying? That was my compromise. I'll go all the way over there, run halfway across the map, grab the helicopter, come back, pick
Hmm.
y'all up. And one of the guys still thermited himself. Like, but at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where, like, we compromise,
Yeah.
and we made it pretty far. It's just,
Hmm.
there was a clear lack of communication towards the end there,
Yeah.
because somebody wanted to just kept but saying, buy your guns, buy your guns. I'm like, bro, buying the gun doesn't matter, fam. I'm like, we need to get out of here. This is
Hmm.
a hot spot. Y'all ain't shooting at nobody. Like, this is a hot spot. Let's
Hmm.
leave. He didn't want to leave. He just wanted to hang out. And so I got stuck hanging out. And guess what happened?
Hmm.
Team wipe. We're all gone.
Yeah.
Game over. I hit on the button. Guess who I'm stuck with? The NorCal. Okay. I'm stuck with NorCal again. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, NorCal, you're in this game too? Yeah. But guess what? Me and him got along even better that game than the other game, though,
Yeah.
because I already knew what his prerogative was. Doing
Hmm.
whatever. That's his prerogative. So I knew off rip. I'm like, I gotta kind of stay at an angle from you and kind of like cover you. Because if I try to do me, you're not covering me, you're doing you. So my compromise was, I have to just do whatever he's doing
Hmm.
at the time. I have to move with him, because if I don't move with him, he's just gonna move anyway. But
Yeah.
anyway, needless to say, we lost that game too, and I got even more frustrated and I rage quit. Um, yeah, but I said all that to say this. Um, Besides spaces like my podcast and other like podcasts where people actually sit down together, and people give podcasts a lot of shit because they
Hmm.
feel like, oh, like people just saying whatever and in an echo chamber. I'm like, no, most of the time people don't agree that much. Like,
Hmm.
they agree, but they really don't be agreeing that much. They're just having a casual conversation, and that's how conversations go.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna say something that's a bit outlandish, and you're gonna have to go, wait a minute, what?
Hmm.
And then you'll try and like dial them back. You know what I'm saying? Somebody on some topic is gonna be a bit to the
Yeah.
left or right. That's just how it is. And
Hmm.
and it and it's one of the few things left that teaches people how to actually have those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. I will say this. I
Yeah, go ahead.
think kind of like what you're saying, and then before we go back to the original point too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure from, and this is, I'm not saying this is true at all. This is just from my experience and what I was told when I was overseas, because I was actually in Italy when that Orlando or when that Florida nightclub shooting happened
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people said it because, of course, they know I'm American, and they kind of brought it out about having discussion because they said, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" And they actually wanted to know and actually have the discussion. And it seems like maybe, and I'm not sure, so it seems like an Americanized view right now to be on one and the other, and to be really extreme and be for
Mm-hmm.
or against and have no nuances as well. And so when people, they don't listen to everything you say, and they just see
Mm-hmm.
one thing and say, "Hey, this is all wrong." And sometimes, we're all guilty of it. No one's perfect too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and I think that somehow that became the norm. Because I know we're talking about it too when you hear like conservative, it has like that negative
Mm-hmm.
connotation on it.
Yep.
And and then depending on on what side of the fence you're on, liberals negative, conservatives negative, everything's just negative. It's not just a description anymore. And
Yep.
that they made it that extreme. And so that's the thing. So because of that, that's part of the reason why people just can't have a normal conversation and not disagree without yelling and bowing up and like, "Oh my gosh, this and that too." And I think there's a difference between being like passionate and being disrespectful. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we got to it where being disrespectful and, or not, sorry, being boisterous and passionate kind of went hand in hand with being disrespectful, and then that became okay and normal. And I think that's the one thing that I wish we could go ahead and fix. And that, and people just like being negative anyway too. But back to the original topic, uh,
Yes.
uh, I think the other part of it too with social media is that just parents need to be more involved. And I know that there's no easy way to say that, and it's really really hard. It is because of and even with a like a two parent household, it's hard. With a single parent household, it can be even harder. With family and everything too, just because, like, especially in certain places in the world where it costs so much to live,
Yeah.
parents are doing more and more. So kids, they have more and
California.
more unattended time. And then
Mm-hmm.
even with like social media stuff too, there's a lot of it, like, because I know like Apple, like with the iPhone, and
Mm-hmm.
I know Android have it too. They have all these parental controls and everything, but there's really not like, and it shouldn't be on YouTube to someone. So for someone like one of us to be like, "Hey, this is how you can set up these things to control to use these features to help monitor your kid's stuff too." A lot of it should be coming from the manufacturers, and in a way to say, "Hey, this is what we could do, and let's help you," because they put in the features, but they don't tell you how to use it. Because there's a lot of people that I talk to when they're getting like their kids a cell phone, and doing different things, and they have no idea how to use any of these features to help monitor and restrict, as well, because these kids are having more and more time unattended. And like I said, and I know it's a vicious cycle, and I can't tell people, "Hey, you don't need to make more money, to cut back a little so people can live and have a healthier environment for the people." Um,
Mm-hmm.
like, I wish, like, I would want to say that and say, "Hey, to help everybody overall," but you can't tell someone to stop making money because they're gonna because they're gonna be like, "Hey, who are you?" And I think that's just the main thing. It's a vicious cycle, and more so than barring an age for, hey, 13's too young. I think because, like, you said earlier, plenty of examples. There's kids that make YouTube channels with their
Mm-hmm.
parents. There's other people that do that. They do things with their parents, so they can find out where they're going. And I think that's just the main thing, that we need more parental involvement. But I do understand that it is hard for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
parents to go in there because they're busy working and doing everything full source. So they're working a full-time job, Now both parents just live, have to work a full-time job. Then they have to go ahead and guess what? They have to go make dinner, get lunch, pack grocery, run errands, help their kid with their homework, do everything else too. So guess what? When they need their self well-deserved time to decompress and be silent, guess what? The kid's being unmonitored and they're doing things. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't really fault the parent as well, just because there's so much going on and it's so hard, and there's really no perfect solution. And I think maybe like the 13, I think it is too young, but I think it is kind of a cop out. And then there needs
Mm-hmm.
to be more verifications for
Yeah.
to actually do this thing, because I can make an account right now and say I'm 13, and it really doesn't. There's no verification, and I can make an account if I'm a
You know
13-year
what?
old, make an account that says like I'm 18, and
I
there's no
got I got
verification.
I got it. I got it. I got it. Here we go. You can't be on that platform till you have an ID, till you have an
Yeah,
actual ID, and they actually verify your ID. Like I think that's what it's gonna have to come down to for all of them. Like you're gonna have to
yeah,
like a lot of people didn't want that to happen because a lot of people like running those parody accounts and all
yeah,
that. You know what I'm saying? But I think eventually everything's gonna have to be linked back to somebody.
yeah.
And I think that's the only way to make the internet and and social media a safer and more real place. Like
Well, yeah,
I think people are gonna have to. I think people are gonna have to do. That's the only way to get the kids the age restriction right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
also get verification right as far as identity. Then you can stop the check marks and all of that because everybody's verified.
Hmm.
Everybody's verified. Like 100% verification across the board. Because I mean, you force Lyft to do it for their drivers. You know what I'm saying? Everybody does it for all these other things. I'm like, I don't think it's a stretch to go, oh, you are really Byron. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? That's my real name. Like, oh, I'm really Byron. Like, I
yeah.
don't think I
Well,
don't think that's a stretch.
I think it could be though, because of for people that are doing certain things, because I know people, they just make videos and say they just do animation, or they just do certain things, and they don't want their face out there. I could definitely see how that verification could be a problem. So then it's gonna be like, how
So
much transparency is it gonna be seen? And then just also the repercussions for that as well too.
okay, so I'll compromise here. When doing that, the person doesn't have to go by their name at all.
Mhm.
It's just a back end thing to say this
To create
account.
account.
Yeah, to create an
Mm,
account. Period. You can be whoever you want to be online. You can
mm,
create a whole new persona for yourself. I don't
mm,
care. But at the
mm,
end of the day, it is linked back to a regular person. At the end of the
mm.
day.
Yeah.
So if something happens, goes on, they don't have to track your IP address. They don't have to do all these fancy things to
Mhm.
find out who the you are. Like, no,
Uh,
you are verified and you are who you are.
mm. I can see that. I can see that working. I think there's gonna be a lot of backlash, because there's backlash for doing anything. Um,
Oh yeah, of course.
like I said, I'm definitely, I said I'm okay with that. But then I guess if it's implemented correctly, um, and different things you're gonna do, I do think that's probably gonna be the only way that they could get the air. That is the only way that they're gonna be able to get the age verification correct. Um,
Yeah.
but then it's like, does that open the door for a bunch of other things as well too? So it's, because then they're like, okay, because now I have to register for YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all these other things. It's like, because then it's like, okay, now do I have to register for IGN? Do I have to register for everything that has that thing? There's that slippery road that, and so I get the fear for that one too. There's that slippery road where people are like, do I have to register my stuff for everything that it might have content? And
Okay,
you know,
so this is my thing. This is my thing. If you can make an account where you are engaging in the populace, in
mhm,
the mass populace, right?
mhm,
To make an account on there,
mhm,
yes. To view the content itself, no.
yeah,
No. If the
yeah,
website wants you to view the content itself, cool. But to actually engage in conversation, you need an account, and you register by being
Yeah.
verified on the back end.
So
I,
yeah,
I think that's the fair compromise. Like, you can look at it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, plenty of people watch YouTube videos to learn how. Like, I watched the YouTube video to make sure I was putting this thing together right. Like, I forgot
yeah.
what I was putting together. I think it was my bed.
So then I'll put it this way then too, though, because this
Mhm.
is the issue I see happening, and this is where I see content creators might say no to it, because the more things you have to register to interact, and now, like, the new metric everybody's using right now is engagement. If you're putting a
Mhm.
roadblock for engagement, how is that gonna hurt their bottom line?
Well, I
And
mean, it
so
doesn't it doesn't hurt the creator. It hurts the site.
well, no, but
Period.
it hurts the site, which also hurts the creator, because what happens is that because YouTube is using stuff for engagement, right? And that's how they're doing certain payoffs. Same thing with Instagram, same thing with other things. So because that's a metric that people are using. So
Right.
if I'm putting a barrier in front of there, that's gonna hurt, because I'll put it this way. I know people who like Instagram, or sorry, people who like my content, but they don't have an Instagram. They don't want to get Instagram. But if they want to look through my collection too, it's telling them to make an account. So therefore, that stops my engagement too.
So,
And that's just the view stuff, right? But if you're doing things that too, I get more for different payouts. You get more for more engagement. So the more people who comment on my stuff, that's an engagement.
mhm.
Now if they have to create an account to do that, that's gonna be a stopgap. And I'm not saying pros or con. I'm just saying I think that's where content creators, they might say, "Hey, hold up," because now you're dipping into their pockets
Right.
for a
Now,
verification.
but here's my thing, right? Here's my thing also, right? Most of these people that do engage already have an account.
Hmm?
Like, so
No, they have an
all you're saying is, like, and my thing is, as long as there's the correct buffer period for it, like, a lot of people are already online, right? They
Mhm.
already have stuff. Like, me and you were content creators. We should
Yes.
not have to go through the extra step of verification, because I'm already here. You're
Mm,
already there. Like, it should be like new pages. If you are born this date, you will be doing this, and everybody else over
mm,
time, we will
mm.
get everybody else. Like, you have
No, I
to,
totally get what you're saying, but
yeah,
this is what I'm saying. So because we know people who, and we see it all the time. We people, they just create a YouTube just to engage with the community.
yeah.
So now we're putting that extra step in there too. So now it's like, are they going to do it? And I'm thinking that will hurt, just to get the information right. I'm saying that's going to hurt engagement for people, and that's where I'm saying where people will be like, people are gonna be like, no, because I'll put it this way. I go on when I used to go on Twitch, when there's pages where I have to subscribe to engage in your chat, or I have to subscribe and wait for a certain time to engage in your chat. Guess what? I'm peace out. I'm not engaging in your stuff.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
And no,
Twitch is like that.
yeah, no. So I'm saying, if we give someone saying, hey, now to go ahead and to register for an account, even though you're not going to post anything, you're not going to create anything, you just want to comment, and we all know people that do that. But now it's like,
Mhm.
oh, now you have to register your ID and verify and this and that, and give them that extra step to do everything. That's gonna push them off, and then, or it'll slow them down. So then I can see how I can see how content creators, they might push back on that. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way. I'm just saying that's the other
Yeah,
side,
you're right.
because
I
if you
mean,
give them a roadblock,
everybody would have to do it at the same time for it to be effective.
mm,
Like, because
yeah,
if all the sites do it at once, then it becomes this thing. Okay, everybody has to do it. I literally just have to do it. All right,
mm,
cool. It's like getting a driver's license. Like, you could just hop in a car and drive,
mm,
but if they require you to get a driver's license, all
yeah,
right, I'll get a fucking driver's license. Like, it's one of those things.
mm,
Um, I think that will work in that regard. But if there's not anything else you have to add on this topic, we're gonna transition to another thing right after this.
Hey, If you're someone that craves vibes when it comes to music, like I do, you need to check out Rose Petals. Rose Petals is a 12-track R&B album by yours truly, Fair Michelle, and it just dropped. It's available right now on all major digital outlets. I'm personally inviting you to come and vibe with me through music. Let me know what you think. Shout out to the home team, the Kosher Sound, and you already know we're supporting and watching Homeroom with Smooth. Let's go.
All right, all right, all right. All right. So look, hey, her link is in the description down below. All right. Her link is in the description down below. Go check out that album right now. So next topic. So the Super Bowl, it's been confirmed. We know who's in it, baby. We know who's in it, baby.
Go.
We got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles. Yep.
Philadelphia Eagles, baby.
Eagles flock, let's fly. Fly, Eagles, fly. You got the arrowhead. Exciting times. Congratulations to both teams. Both
Yeah.
fan bases are insane. You said the Chiefs, the loudest stadium in the NFL, or you could say arguably, because the people up in Seattle, they are going to disagree because they're saying the 12th man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then Philadelphia, we all know how those fans are. But I want to get into something a little more controversial, maybe, or just hey,
Okay.
in plain sight. Referees, blown calls, missed calls, bad
Bruh.
calls.
Bro, oh my
It's all over
god.
sports. We saw it over in the. I'm telling you, we saw it in the NBA. We all saw LeBron James fouled on the last minute layup, and Pat Pat Patrick Beverly,
Mm-hmm.
the best technical of all time. I gotta say,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
and then
that was a legendary technical. That's going
yeah,
that's going down in the history books.
yeah, and
Where
then
did he get the camera?
it was one of the reporters on on the baseline. He's like, "Let me see this," like because he tried to show the ref, which was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have NFL. I don't think the calls were a- as bad as egregious, but there were definitely some calls that that were missed to help certain things. So, what do you think about pretty much the state of officiating, and how do you think we could fix it?
Okay, so I seen online a lot of people proposed. Okay, a lot of people proposed finding the refs. I don't know how I feel about that, man. That is a weird. I that is a weird gray area for me because I'm like, look, the game is moving fast, right?
Mhm.
We get to see it on the screen, and we're displaced from it. They're actually there on the court. I'm telling you, I've been that close, and you're gonna miss some stuff, bro. Because there's so much going on the court. Like if you're watching, there's three refs on basketball. We'll talk. Let's talk LeBron first, right? There's three refs on the court. Okay,
I don't know how two of them
three.
missed that.
Huh?
I
Two of
I,
them missed it.
I don't know how two
Yeah,
of those refs
yeah.
because
I don't either. But what I'm saying is, the game moves fast. A lot of bodies. They're big. I could see it happening. However, in that critical moment, okay, that's the last bit of cop out I got for y'all. In that critical moment, that is your job as an official to make sure you get those calls right. And my thing is, like, that was a clear as day. Like, you just seen his arm just collapse. It's up in the air just fine, and then it just collapses. Like, it's LeBron James. His arm doesn't just collapse. It like how did it just fall out of the air?
all I'm going to say is that the NBA added that third official because of reaching you say the game is because they used to have two. Then they're saying the game is faster, more things are happening. Let's add an official to have them to not miss stuff like this.
Yeah.
My issue, and this is my issue, is that refereeing is not consistent, and
Mm,
depending on who you are depending on who you are, or when it is in the game,
Mm-hmm.
they will tend to swallow their whistles. And I understand
Mm.
on certain things you can swallow your whistles, but the same refs called a foul when they're all out of position on a fast break because
Mm.
someone missed a shot and he wasn't touched
Mm.
because he missed, his layup or whatever. So how are you going to get LeBron James unopposed? And the thing was, it wasn't the fact that he missed a layup. It was how he missed a layup. The ball didn't make it above the rim to the backboard, which means, hey, guess what? His arm was interfered with. And the thing is, too, unfortunately for LeBron, it seems to be a recurring trend because they kind of have Shaq rules. So they're like, oh, we could call a foul on him every time, so we're just not going to it. And the thing is, with these games where these calls that should decide the game, if they got the calls that were in, because the NBA, they do a 2-minute report. They do a 2-minute report, and the Lakers and LeBron James, they're regularly on this report. So it says, hey, in the last 2 minutes, we're messing up and missing all these fouls on LeBron James. Maybe you need to go in there and be like, hey, guess what? We need to pay closer attention to this. And if those Lakers and those 4 games that were close in these circumstances, you take away 4 losses, put away 4 and give them the 4 wins. So the Lakers are in 4th place.
Yeah.
In the division.
Yeah.
So it seems honestly like I know what to do. But because the reason why they do these 2-minute reports is so that they could learn these patterns and fix what they're doing. And the fact that these 2-minute reports are not working shows they need to go something else. So I'm not sure if it's finding them. I'm not sure if it's adding another ref. I'm not sure if it's
What?
There's a lot of things that they need to do, but obviously they're not spending enough
Mm-hmm.
time to go over this report to say, hey, these are your mistakes in this situation every time. Because that's the thing, for any team with a superstar, usually in the last 2 minutes, if it comes down to a final play like that, the game's it's going to the superstar. So if you notice,
Yeah.
hey, the superstar is getting fouled a lot, or traveling a lot, or fouling a lot,
Mm-hmm.
too, you could go in the game, and that's what you look for. And it seems like these refs aren't doing that.
Yeah. So what I would propose as a solution, you have all these cameras, use them in the last minute. Just use them. Just use them. Get it right. Just in the last minute. In the last minute, because most games are already decided before then. Before then, there's very few times where it comes down to the wire and they like banging it out and they just get it done, right?
Yeah.
And if it's clean, right? If there's a discrepancy, like a blatant discrepancy, I believe there should be honestly, honest to goodness, there should be maybe we need a fourth rep that his job is the camera. Okay. Within that one, he only works within the when the 1 minute. Okay. 1 minute. His job and his or her only job. Okay. Because they do have a female ref now. His or her only job is to make sure all them calls is right. He can trump whatever's going on just during the last minute. That's it. That's your only job. You work 1 minute, 1 minute a game. That is it. You get a local ref, okay, somebody local, because everybody has a local ref. You get one local ref. He comes in 4th quarter, and that's his fucking job. The last 1 fucking minute. That's it. And then all the calls are right.
So there are 2 things, and I'll go more over to football.
Okay.
I do think so. There's 2 things that go against that. One is money because they don't want to pay any other person money. These leagues don't. Two is the pace of the game.
Yeah, it does. It does.
The thing is and it's weird because basketball is always free moving. For free moving around too. so it's harder to check certain things. I that, and I think the thing is too, a lot of views that we get on TV aren't the views for the cameras that they get in the in the stadium. So the thing is, now they have to train their cameramans and their camera crews to look for stuff like that for that as well too. And then during that feed, do they call it? I do think like in the last 2 minutes, in the last 30 seconds, and maybe they need to have a rule. If the game's within 5 points in the last minute, a lot of stuff's going to go into review, especially if there's a stoppage of time.
What if the rep works from home and he watches our view?
Well, because I think the thing is too, there's that delay. So that's the thing too. So like I said, it works because it works more in football, because in football, after every play, it's stopped, and then that's why they have New York, and they say, because that's why they always say New York, because they have that sky eye too. And basketball, it's still moving. So that's why I think for right. I think last play, probably because obvious stoppage in time. Last play review. Someone calls a timeout in that last 30 seconds, last minute, time stoppage in there, definitely review. That's because they do have challenges, they do have other stuff, and that's usually
they have official reviews, don't they?
No, they have reviews, but those reviews are always when the clock is stopped. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe in the last 30 seconds, if the game's within 5 points, every time there's a clock stoppage, anytime there's like an obvious, like I said, and I can't say a score, but clock stoppage, we go to review. If you let the refs err on the side of, hey, let me call this, and then let's review the foul, that might be something else too. But then I do know, like, if a game's close, they don't want to go ahead and stop the play to have everybody reset up, because maybe a transition defense, or transition offense is what someone needs. So there is really no perfect answer for the eyes in the sky.
Okay. One last question. What if what they did was, all right, at the end of, because that play happened, that was the last play of regulation. What if you just review that?
No, that's what I said. I agree with that. Anytime there's a clock stoppage or anything like that too, that you should be able to review it, because I think that's also, if stuff like that happens as well too, that will encourage a team to freaking keep a timeout to stop the play. So then during, when they're moving the ball and everything, they can review something too. Because I know off of anything, because people, they have shorter and shorter attention spans. Nothing's worse, especially when you see a basketball game, of like, hey, we're stopping this now. Now we're going this. We're stopping this now. That's one thing where soccer gets it actually right, because no matter what, your clock is moving, and then the time that they use for penalties and injuries and stuff like that too, they added on to the end as well too. So, and then even when they call a red card, or they're reviewing something, that goes into it. So that's one thing, because at first, like, I really didn't understand how, and that's, dumb American, because we don't have football, we just had soccer in it, and then, but we're used to our clocks counting down, their clocks count up to 90 minutes, and then after that, any time for extra time they add to that, that's what they add. And so that's the one thing where I say soccer does get it right too. It's because the clock's always moving. So I think, like, short term, like I said, I think last play should be reviewed. Maybe like I said, if you're within 5 points in the last minute, stuff like that, get they're able to go and review, like, and review more things. And then the last one would be just to what do I want to say? So we did that too. And then the last one, just anytime there's like a clock stoppage. And then and maybe it seems like, hey, if 3 refs can't get the job done, the force get the job done. But sometimes they call these calls because they're saying, hey, I didn't have a good enough view, because if you look at the refs, there's 2 refs looking at LeBron James.
Yeah.
and the guy going behind him. So if you're saying we got an X ref in position, so then two of these refs could be in position, and that's not enough. Maybe we do need to add another ref, and maybe the NBA they need to go ahead and hire another official and have him go up and down the court.
Yeah, I mean, if they did hire another official, then you'd have one on one end, you'd have one on the other end, and then you'd have two. You'd have two on both sides. So you'd have that the one that's on. Let's say you're on the home team's end. If they're on the away side of thing, whatever the away team, they just move up to half court. Like whatever they just move up. They just move up to half court.
Yeah, like, because you'd have everybody in position. I said I don't know what's in I said I don't know what's gonna happen, but well, like I said, we will see. Like I said, I have no idea what they're gonna do. I think that's gonna be the only solution to that, or just hold them accountable and saying, hey, if these are in our 2-minute reports, which we do for this reason, and you keep on messing it up, you guys need to do something about that.
Fine. Dun dun dun. But okay, let's get to football.
NFL is a different story. I could say even the Eagles had some plays, and even though that game was different, so it was never really in question because they had the one touchdown. The one touchdown pass. So they had that one deep pass, and at least with that, the field's a lot bigger. So seeing people out of position, definitely. Seeing people out of position, definitely it's more acceptable in football because they're running 100 yards on the field. So and no one's gonna actually have like the best position on there as well too. But like I said, they do have New York. I know that they try to say out of games because football is just a long game in general. I think they're always trying to speed up the game because football, you have 4 quarters, 15 minutes, you have an hour of playtime, but the clock stops a lot. That's just what happens. So unless they're going to go ahead and change the rules so the clock doesn't stop as much, we're kind of stuck with that. And they're always trying to get the game under 3 hours. So so that's the NFL sweet spot. So I know they don't want people calling stuff over and over again and slowing down the game because they even say that you could call holding pretty much every play. I think there are some egregious holding calls that when they're trying to let them play that you just have to call. Because I know the Patrick Mahomes scramble at the end of the game, there was 2 egregious holding calls, and one guy had the guy like around his neck, and it's like that's kind of how do you miss that? And you have more refs to look at different areas of the field, and then they also do have the sky judge too. I think different but this is where you get weird with it. I think partly with football, I think penalties that do not impact the play should not be called. That's my one big thing about that, because sometimes a guy holds so far away and he wasn't going to impact the play, and we know he was going to impact the play, but they call it, and which slows down the game and everything too. I think that's the one thing they need to do with football. And then too, if you put in that sky judge on there to see certain things, that's where it gets kind of dicey, because then someone else they could go retroactively call something that would be kind of bad. So I don't want the sky judge in every single play. But I do know like on big catches and everything like that too, they should be able to go ahead and check really, really fast as well too, because they do get multiple views, and a lot of the camera people, they're able to go like feed 1, feed 2, feed 3, feed 4, and maybe if you have someone like in the production booth for like CBS or NFL and have one of the officials there looking at all the feeds, so they could buzz in and be like, hey, guess what? I have this view as well. At this view, the guy dropped the ball, because they're getting all those views simultaneously too. So yeah, people are looking for the views and they say, hey, this guy dropped the ball right there on this catch, and it's clear and obvious. Buzz it down and be like, hey, let's review this. Let's look over that. I think stuff like that you should be able to do.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, because there was one piece I found that part where you were like, yo, the guy's not impacting the play. Like, unless it's something like egregious, like if you're like like just like roughing this other guy like egregiously, or you tackle him out of bounds, like you on some
Yeah.
NFL blitz type shit, sure,
Yeah.
like let's call that. But yeah, like the holding call that like it's just two dudes holding each other way over here. Like
Yes.
the play it didn't matter. Like the guy wasn't an impact at all. Like there was no impact.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's like pretty much it's a 3-yard run to the right? And a guy all the way to the left is getting held. So he had no impact on the play. It's like why are you calling that?
Yeah, I agree. But then at the same time, somebody could argue. I'm just thinking devil's advocate. Somebody could argue, well, what if the person on the right wasn't available, and now the person on the left is completely unavailable because he's being held?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's like a 3-yard play, that's the thing too. I'm saying if you say this person, like we're playing Madden, right? So
Yeah.
you have a run to the right off tackle.
Yeah.
And then they're calling holding on the receiver because he's holding the DB all the way to the left of the formation. And it wasn't like a break 40 yards. It was literally 3 yards. We're not calling holding on the guy all the way over there because he was
Okay.
he was not going to hit that play. It's
cool.
It's stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah,
because
my one issue is that if you start using like because people, they said, hey, let's use a sky judge. If you start using a sky judge to call out penalties like that, they could call penalties anywhere on the field, and that's what I don't want to see, and that's why I'm kind of against the sky judge.
Yeah, I agree with that, because football would be egregious. Like I've always seen just wild stuff happen on the field, and I'm just like, yo, nothing, nothing. Hey, nope, nobody's seen that. No, nobody. Okay, all right, cool.
So.
I do want to say though, to those people that are upset that Kansas City won over the Bengals, listen, okay, listen. Your one dude, he roughed the passer for no freaking reason. Okay, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. Okay, I went and watched that play because all I seen was the clip of the dude walking into the locker room. He's like, "Yo, why'd you touch the QB?" Da, 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 da. And I went and watched the play, and I'm like, "Yo, why did you do that? The ball was gone."
Well,
like,
I don't think it was so much about that that one play, because I'll say this on the kick return, which I will say this: it was a bad punt when the Bengals punted the ball back to Kansas City, but there was a block in the back on that return that wasn't called. That definitely impacted the play. There was a roughing the passer, not roughing the passer. There was an intentional grounding that you could argue should have been called, and that one didn't matter anyway because they still converted. The Bengals converted, but he threw it to the dirt right, and his running back was in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't. And the thing is too, depending on the quarterback, depending on the quarterback, and the cachet you have, you could dirt the ball, and within 10 yards of a running back, and it's fine. But then this one is like, oh, he was 5 yards, but I guess since there was no X or Y receiver, they called it, and I think that's officiating that people were getting mad. I don't, like I said, I'm at the one where like that roughing the passer call. I don't think that had an impact on the game because Patrick Mahomes still had 8 seconds left to get 10 more yards to put, because that would have been a 60-yard field goal, I think, and then he would have 10 more yards to get him into 50, or 8 seconds to get 10 more yards. So Patrick Mahomes could do that. So that's why I'm like, so even as soon as that kicker, or as soon as the kick returner got the ball back, or the punt returner got the ball back to the 50-yard line, I'm like, game over, game set and match, Mahomes. So I wasn't really like, the game was already settled. There were just other plays in there that you're like, okay, why are they not calling this? Why are they not calling that? With some bad officiating on both sides. But I think this year as a whole, like, because, and I'll put it this way, besides those two games, I'll put it this way, there was the Rams Seahawks game, right?
Yeah.
And there was bad calls on that went against the Rams. that there was
Mm-hmm.
stuff that led to an interception and everything on the Rams, so then the Seahawks got the ball and the Seahawks were able to win that game, and the Rams they had a lead. The issue with that one though is that
Mm-hmm.
if the Rams actually got those plays called, so then Seattle wasn't able to get that interception and kick that field goal, and let's say
Yeah.
Seattle lost that game, the Detroit Lions would have made the playoffs.
Mm.
Which means and now you're affecting their checks because the playoff game is extra money, their livelihoods,
Mm-hmm.
their bonuses, they're this, they're that. Because remember, some of these contracts they have incentives for playoff stuff like that too. You could have completely redone Jared Goff's freaking legacy too,
Yeah.
as well too. So like it's not even. I know these games were like the latest examples, but at least for the NFL, this has been the year where just officiating has been really, really bad. And they're just missing some egregious things that are just wide open. And like with the NFL, I know that they don't publicize a report like they do in the NBA. I do know that the refs they get graded, and then like the best graded refs, not crews, refs are able to go into the playoffs, and then you kind of make like all-star what do you call it? You make all-star crews, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad thing too, because then you're separating a team, and then for the ones like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this guy, this crew as a whole is good, and now you're splitting them up. So now someone they're used to covering this and this, and from this distance, and then someone else has his back. Now they're on a different team, and they're like, oh, okay, and then like you change the style, and so maybe they should just say, hey,
Mm.
we're keeping our crews together. The crews
Mm.
are created as a whole. This is what we missed. This is what you missed, and this is what you guys need to fix too. I think maybe that's a solution for the NFL as well too. It's keep the crews together, so people that are familiar working with each other.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I can get behind that. Actually, sounds like a really solid idea. The top ref crews go
Yeah.
to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I
Yeah.
think I think that's fair. That's reasonable. And like you're saying, like you could easily I could just simply relate it to like this. Like me and you, we understand each other. Like we're able to vibe off each other.
Yeah.
We're able to talk. But then as soon as I go with somebody else, I have to have a whole lengthy conversation in the front end just to kind of get the vibes.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic.
You know what I'm saying? Correct. You know what I'm saying? Correct. And then you know what I'm saying? I know what you're going to talk about and how you're going to talk about it. You know what I'm going to talk about, how I'm going to talk about it, and what angle I'm kind of going. So
Mm-hmm.
then we're able to bounce off each other. Like without that level of coverage in the NFL, it becomes like that level of chemistry. It becomes where, well, I'm watching this thing, and those two both might be really strong at watching this one thing.
Yeah.
So now all this other stuff, like you're saying, is getting missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just I think the other thing too, what the NFL really does, what they really do need is they need a full-time, because the NFL they don't have any full-time refs. So that's the other thing too. So I think they could get some full-time refs. Maybe the refs union they make a deal now with the USFL too, and maybe they use the same refs, because now these two seasons they don't overlap. The XFL is coming back too, and then and at least they could get the speed, because now the USFL gives them more time at a high level, because they even said it. There's different collegiate refs that go over to the NFL, and the speed is different from all positions too. So you need people that are used to dissecting the game down at that speed, because we saw it when we had the replacement refs, because they weren't used to that speed. So I think the USFL, if they want to justify, there's only 17 games in the season, so per team, and so we don't have enough work for them to give them full time. Work with the USFL, have them, especially if the rules are very same or similar. So then these refs that could get extra reps and call the game and do something, you get these crews that work together as well too. And I think that will definitely be a good starting point, because sometimes I think that the refs they're just out of practice because they just don't have enough time to play reps and everything too. And then there's that drop off. And the thing is, like, all the football seasons are at the same time as well too, because college football ended a little bit ago too. So like you can't have refs that could go. They can do multiple things, but now that you're having these other leagues like the XFL, the USFL that are coming on board, maybe have like your little NFL refs PA or just football, American football refs, union, and have them do everything and have them do them all. So then you can have a full-time staff, have people get the reps that they need. You could have off-season training. They could go to these. They could also go to like training camps and everything that they have too. So they could get some reps on these scrimmages, so they know what to look for the game and not miss obvious crap.
Man, you know what? That's an excellent point. I have nothing else to say on that. I think that's a great place. I think that's a great place to stop. That was awesome, man. So with that being said, y'all, this is episode 191 of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. I'm out of here, man. We out.